Hey everyone, Toby from DuraSeal here, and I wanted to talk about identifying red versus white oak. So here we have two vents. This one is obviously red oak, this one's obviously white oak. It's always very easy to tell them apart when they're side by side. Normally on a floor, we're doing it where we don't have that advantage of having the two side by side to see them, so we need to find other indicators of what differentiates them. I discourage people from counting on the color. Red oak is kind of pink, white oak is kind of white or green, because with stain on them, we lose that and it can be deceiving. If we put a red stain on white oak, we don't want to mistakenly think that it's red oak, just as an example. So the first thing I want to point out, and we're going to zoom in here, are the Magary Rays. And that's these small lines that are on both red oak here and white oak here. So on red oak, they're almost always going to be shorter than a ½ inch, and almost usually going to be closer to a ¼ inch. And you can see this one's about 3/8, this is about 3/8, that's about a quarter. These are very small here, maybe 3/8. So you can see that they're very small. On the white oak, we see much longer ones. That's 3/4 or an inch, that's a ½ inch, that's 3/4. This one's over an inch long. You can see that they're much longer on the red oak, longer on the white oak than on the red oak. That's going to be our best surface indicator looking down at the floor for the differentiation between them. If we can pull a vent and see the butt ends, like assuming that there is not a flush mount vent in the way, then we can look at something called the capillaries. And we're going to zoom in the best we can right here. And what we're looking at is the little holes in the end of the wood here and here. On the red oak, on the left side of your screen, you should notice that they're large open holes that you can kind of see into. The ones on the white oak are much smaller, but in addition to that, they kind of look like they're filled with some spider webby looking material called tylose. That is actually the biggest difference between red oak and white oak, and that's what makes white oak waterproof. Ships are built out of white oak and not red oak, and whiskey barrels are built out of white oak and not red oak because white oak is waterproof. But so you want to look for the capillaries and see if they're open or if they're filled with that material. That will be another indicator of the red versus white. Generally, I look for 2 clues like that to tell me, and then I'm confident that I've made the correct assessment. If I can't get to the capillaries, I try to play devil's advocate and prove myself wrong. So I'll look for boards that don't match up with what I think it is. So if I think it's red oak, I'll try to find white oak boards on the floor with the longer capillaries. And finding one in the floor is not uncommon, because it's not uncommon for there to be a slight mix of the different woods. But yeah, the more boards that I look at and that I identify as being red or white oak, the more confident I get in my assessment.